Hi, everybody. This is Caroline Bakai. I'm the CEO and founder of the Voice of Our Child, voiceofourchild.org. You can look that up. It's an organization that gives kids an opportunity to get over their depression, get over the anxiety. We offer mentorship to kids around the world in the hope that we can reduce the rate of suicide. And we do that through travel, like through mission work, through community service, through giving, because we believe that most of these kids feel like they really have nothing to give. And when they go on our mission trips, it's like they feel that they have impacted the world in a remarkable way. We expose them like just to so much and to people who are definitely in need. And our mission trips are to Kenya through the Water Gap Africa Safaris. And it's called Water Gap Africa Safaris because some of the proceeds from our trips go to provide clean water for Kenya. But today, I'm not here to talk about the voice of our child. I'm also not here to talk about the safaris that we did to Kenya. Today, I am here to talk about a subject that a lot of people have been talking about, and everybody has always asked me, Caroline, why are you so silent about what's going on in the world with the Black Lives Matter, with racial discrimination and everything like that? Because everybody knows that I like being a voice for others, and as Mrs. Kenya, my platform was Clean Water for Kenya, Education for Girls, Ending FGM. As Mrs. Pennsylvania, it was fighting mental illness, depression, and in the hope of reducing the rate of suicide. I have to tell you why I think I have not really been very vocal about talking about racism. I think that I have left it to the experts, because sometimes I think that if that's not my expertise, I might say the wrong thing. Somebody might take it really in the wrong way. What do I mean by that? I am not an African American because I was born in Kenya. I lived in Kenya I've been in this country, the US, for the last 25 years. And I lived in Kenya until I was 25 years old. So I'm 50 years old. So half of my life was in Kenya, and then half of my life has been here. I cannot say, to be very honest, that I have ever seen racism like so outright, like in my face. And also, like, I have been pulled over quite a number of times for speeding and or maybe parking somewhere I was not supposed to park or something like that, but I never felt threatened. I never was disrespected. Like, seriously, I don't fear the police. They were always like really very nice to me. Actually, most times I never even got a ticket. I got a warning. And yes, I know that, somebody posted that, oh, they asked you where you're coming from and where you're going. To me, I think that that's their job. Maybe I'm just so naive, but I just feel like if a police officer asked me where I'm going, where I'm coming from, I don't look at like they're being racist to me. And if they are, that's their own problem, because I don't feel it. But I have never really felt threatened by the police or getting pulled over or having to explain to them, oh, I'm gonna, this is where I'm reaching for my bag, or I'm doing this. I just act normal. It's like I'm pulled over, pull out my driver's license, registration, give them. And that I think has happened to a lot of people who are from Africa. I know when I came to this country, I came with my brother. My brother was like 19 years old. And I remember as a 19-year-old, it's like the excitement, you've come to America. Because growing up in Kenya, we always thought, oh, wow, America, land of opportunities. Unlike most immigrants, we come here, it's a land of opportunity for us, And so my brother was 19 years old when he came to this country. And I started my first job at Kodak as a print processing person, and then I graduated to be a lab analyst. I was the first female person to be a lab analyst. I was also the first Black female to be a lab analyst. And I'm only mentioning the word Black because this is not what I'm talking about, but I've never really thought of my color. Because first, now I am an American, and then I'm a Christian, and then I'm a daughter, and I'm somebody's wife, I'm somebody's mother, before I even think of what color I am. To be colored doesn't mean anything. So my brother was 19 years old when he came to this country, and he started kind of acting up and hanging with the wrong people. My brother lived in Patterson. That was the first place. That was our first introduction to America. And most people know Patterson was predominantly black people, like African American people. And so I got to work with most of them. And I remember, like, always at work, they used to kind of tease me and say, "Oh, you're so white." And I'm like, "What do you mean that, like, I'm so white?" "Oh, you're acting so white." And I said, "What do you mean?" They're like, "No, just even the way you talk, and it's like you're punching in on time. You're like, oh, I'm gonna work overtime. I'm gonna work Thanksgiving." First of all, like, we were so new to this country, we didn't even know what Thanksgiving was, and plus you're getting paid time and a half. We got paid so well at Kodak. I was like, yeah, I'm working. So I started thinking, like, what do these people really mean? Because I had never, like, really known about I mean, we had read about the history of the slaves and everything, but we were slaves in our own country from the British. And we had just gotten our independence in 1963, which was much uh, closer to us being under the colonization of the British more than the African Americans had been under the Americans. But anyway, so I used to tell them, so they would tell me, "Oh, we went through this and we went through that." And I would also give them my story. So innocently, I would tell them, I said, "You know what? We were colonized by the British in our own country. We were like slaves in our own country." And I said, both my grandparents were prisoners of war. Like, they left my grandmother and were in jail. Like, they were prisoners of war from the British. The British brought us education, religion, and everything, but they also colonized us. They took over our farms, and my grandparents worked under now the British rule. And I told them, I said, but right where we are right now in Kenya, we never ever feel that oh, we hate the British, or like we are under them, or because they had made us slaves that we're angry at them. And again, I was just talking so innocently because that's exactly how it is in my country, Kenya. And I said, when we gained our independence from the British, they never give us anything in return. We never like got any welfare. We never got like any food stamps or anything. We had to start again from square one. Like, my grandparents had to try to get back their farms or buy new farms and start from square one. And I said, we appreciate that the British brought us education and Christianity because we went to school and we worked so hard, and we can get any jobs that we can. And so I guess the British people saw that, oh, these black people who we had colonized are just the same as we are. We had the same jobs, and somehow maybe it drove some back to England. We still have some in Kenya, but we live so harmoniously with them. Like, we really live so well with them. I don't think that there's anybody who feels there's discrimination. Again, I was just sharing innocently because exactly that's how it is. I was not going to pretend that it's any different. So they would tell me about the discrimination here, and I decided I was going to live the way I lived in Kenya. I was going to live as if everybody is equal, whether you're white or whatever color you are, that I am equal, that I can get the same education, I can be anything that I want to be. My brother, on the other hand, who we came when he was 19 years old, now getting back to my brother, of course, got into the bad company, and he started hanging out with these guys in Patterson. And within a very short time, he started missing work, and he would tell me, he'd be like, "Oh, you guys, you don't know, I don't really have to work all the time, these white people, everything." And he really, it really got so bad. He got hooked on whatever substance was there, and he started really getting into trouble, and finally he was even fired from the job. And I remember I used to go look for him with my older brother, who was already here. We used to go look for him in these kind of neighborhoods that we were even like scared to go to, and we'd find him there, maybe smoking weed or whatever he was doing, and we're like, "You have to get out of here. This is not safe for you. We came, this is a land of opportunity. You have every equal right, like everybody, to be somebody." Of course, he's being 19 and he's like, "Oh, you don't understand," and whatever he told me. But one day I sat him down and I said, "Listen, I am going to put you on a plane back and you're going to go back home, because even in Africa, you are not behaving the way you're behaving. And if you're going to start saying, oh, I can just stay home, get assistance from the government." I didn't even know what that was. Like, seriously, I had no idea that you could stay home and get assistance from the government. And I was like, "Robert, like, you have two legs, you have two eyes, you have your arms and limbs, like, you have to work like all of us, and that's exactly what you're going to do." And I read him the Riot Act. those days was not even cell phone. So you can imagine when he didn't show up home, I had to go into these neighborhoods to look for him. And I was like scared because like we with our culture, the way we came from Africa, it's like we were not loud, we were, kind of like respectful, and in some of these places when I went there, they were not like really very nice to me. And unfortunately to say, they were black neighborhoods, and I'm telling you, this was now then and what I knew. So I read my brother the riot act, and I said, you have to get clean. You're not going to do that anymore. You're going to go to work. So we got him back to work, not at the same place because he had gotten fired, but he started working. So my brother Robert, still, he got a lot of tickets. Like, he was arrested. I can't even tell you how many times he was arrested. Was never disrespected by the police whenever he was arrested. In fact, it was so weird. Like, he would call me from the police station to go and bail him out. The police officers who I met there, who are white police officers, were always very nice to me. And they said, Carol, your brother looks like he's a very nice guy. I think, and he's so respectful. They said he's so respectful. Even when he pulled him over, he was so respectful. This one time they told me that they pulled him over. They had put the handcuffs on him, and he was telling them that they're so tight. And they actually took off the handcuffs from him, even give him a cigarette. I know. And I'm thinking these were now white police officers. And I never even thought about it until now, when with whatever's happening, that I'm thinking about it. But they used to tell me, he looks like he's a very nice guy. Like, try to talk to him. He can go to school. He can make a life out of himself. And I would talk to my brother, and this went on for years. Like, he would get pulled over for stupid things, like he was not wearing a seatbelt or whatever, And I'm just talking about the whole police thing. Never at one time was my brother put on the ground. Never was my brother like threatened or anything. It was always like they were always very respectful to him because he was also very respectful to them. And even now, my brother is a very, very gentle person. He's really a nice guy. And again, I had to read the riot acts to him as an older sister. I said, listen, this is not who we are. We are not the kind of people to be always getting pulled over by the police, or me coming to bail you out of jail and things like that. There was even a time he was almost like being deported out of the country, and the judge was a white judge, and she talked to me and she says, you guys, you look like very smart people, very educated people, you're very polite, you talk really nice. This land, like you said, is a great opportunity for you guys. Talk to your brother. Again, I did not see any disrespect or anything anywhere that I went. Fast forward, my brother is such a responsible guy right now. He has a job, and once in a while he'll get pulled over. But he's never really been disrespected, or he never ever felt threatened in any way. So what am I saying? I'm just saying that maybe there's, and this is not just for our family. This is for most Kenyans or most Africans that I've talked to. We've never really felt that kind of a discrimination, that the police discriminate black people, because my father is here, my mother is here, my sisters are here, my other brother is here. All of us have been pulled over at a certain point in our life. Never ever felt disrespected, never ever felt that there was any discrimination. And yes, I don't care whether they ask me, what did you have yesterday, where are you going, where are you coming from, what did you have for dinner, I don't care about all those things. And I don't even think that, to me, I seriously, and again, that's me, I never really think it's discrimination. I just think the guy is doing his job. So when I started seeing all these police brutality, I was like, wow, police brutality against the black people. So I'm asking all my brothers and sisters, my aunts and my uncle and every other people from Africa that I know. They're like, I don't know. It's very few who said, yeah, I think so. But seriously, and I'm not talking for all Africans, I'm just talking for my family, we never felt that. As far as discrimination, again, I have never ever felt discriminated against by the people that I hang out with, and I have never actually almost felt my color. I remember when I was competing as Mrs. Kenya, there was this time in the pageant that I was the only black lady there, because even some of the girls, like from South Africa and other African countries, were white girls. I have never even thought to 1 minute, oh, I'm black. So sometimes people would come up to me, or reporters come up to me and say, how does it feel to be the only person of color here? And I'm like, color? Like, what do you mean, like, of color? I just never saw color, because I just don't know. I just never saw it. And so even now when I'm seeing all these riots and things like that. And don't get me wrong, I think that it's wrong for people to be killed just because of their color. But again, because it never happened to us, and I'm black, I didn't understand it, you know. And also, the fact that if I've had like jobs where I have applied for a job. If I didn't get it, I never really thought that because I was black. But some people would say, "Oh, you never got it because you were black," and I'd be like, "Oh, really?" I'd say, "Well, it's their loss, not mine," you know. And the person never came out right to me and said, "I'm not giving you this job because you're black." You know, so if I didn't get it, I thought, oh, maybe I'm just not qualified enough for the job. The only time I felt like I was kind of discriminated against, it was really weird. It was a church. It was a church, and they had an evangelism position. I love people. I love talking. I love like doing organizations and communities and dinners and things like that. So I applied for this job. And I can't even believe it. And the pastor of the church told me, "Oh, you know, it's not just an evangelism job. It's like there's computer work. You have to enter things into the computer, da da da." And the way they were saying it to me is like, "This is not for you." Like I thought to myself, like, really? Does he think like I'm stupid, you know? And they didn't give the job to me. They gave me to somebody else who was white, who did a very, very terrible job, didn't even stay in the job or anything. But I still really promoted evangelism, you know? That was kind of the time I was like really? This person looked at me and thought that I was stupid. But anyway, so I never felt, even when I was competing, that I was a black person. I ended up working for the Mrs. America and the Mrs. World, which is owned by, of course, white people. And I was the first black contestant coordinator that they ever had. Actually, I guess the only black coordinator that they ever had. Yet we had black girls who were competing. And remember, I did not win the title of the Mrs. World when I competed as Mrs. Kenya, but they said there's something about you that really stood out, and how you related to everybody, and how you answered the reporters and things like that. And so I have seen like girls of color compete, and when they don't win, they'll always complain, "Oh, they didn't win because of their color." I don't really know whether that is true, because I have been a judge in also these pageants. I have judged the Mrs. World, I have judged the Mrs. New York, I've judged the Mrs. America, I've judged all these pageants, and I never ever felt, the owners never ever told us like, "Oh, I don't want this person of this color." If anything, they always tell us, "We don't care what kind of a person you pick, as long as they can be our voice, as long as they can be, you know, I guess our like our logo out there." And they never ever say, "Don't pick a black girl, white girl, or anything." As I'm speaking right now, our Mrs. America is a black girl, and she's awesome. She's so wonderful, really great educated girl, really nice and polite. I was a contestant coordinator, and there were judges, you know, of every color. And I've also been a judge where I was the only black judge, and a black girl didn't win, you know. So it doesn't, I don't really think that it's really like our color. But I really think that if we think that our color prevents us from doing something, you'll always feel that it does, and it actually will. It's because like it's almost like you're getting this vibe into yourself. And I was listening to Rob Mark, who's an author of this Happiness from Deep Within, and he was talking about like being happy from within. You know, when you're so happy from within, and the thoughts that you think in your head, they make you react to a certain situation. So I guess because I never really ever thought of my color, even if I go to anywhere, like the neighborhood where we just moved into is like predominantly white. And so we went to one of the restaurants that's nearby there. I think maybe we're the first black people to go there or something. And even when people were looking, I never really thought that, "Oh, they're looking at me because I'm black, and what are they thinking?" Yes, they could have been looking at me because I'm black. If I was in Africa and in the village and a white guy entered the restaurant, we'd all be looking. We'd be like, "Oh, wow, there's a white guy here. Like, what is the white guy doing here?" Not because we're being discriminative, but it's because it's rare to see a white guy in that neighborhood. So same thing, that's how I think. When I go there, I'm thinking, "Oh, maybe they're looking. They're like, oh, wow, where did this black person come from?" And they became my friends, and they started talking to me, and I started talking to them. And now when I walk in there, it's like I almost get a standing ovation. "Hey, what's up, Caroline?" You know, because I never at one time, though, even when they were asking me like, "Oh, where are you from? Like, did you guys just move here?" I never at one time thought, "Oh, so this is a white neighborhood. You think I shouldn't move here?" No, I really never ever thought it that way. It was almost like they were just curious. And yes, they were curious, you know. And I also thought, like, if I am a black person having come from Africa, and I was looking at the black people here and not really understanding like their bitterness or their grievances, and yet I am black, what do I expect from a white person? It's even worse, because it's like, if I can understand it, and maybe it's because I never grew up here or something like that, how do we expect these white people to understand? So come to the thing where people say, "Oh, Caroline, it's because your husband is white." This is my second husband who's white. My first husband was black, and even when I was married to the black president, those were the days when I just moved here and I used to be pulled over and everything, and I never ever thought about discrimination. I never ever felt that, oh, because of my color, I'm not going to be given this job. Because of my color, this person is not going to let me do anything. I only remember one time we wanted to move, and my husband went and looked at an apartment, and he was told it's available. And then when he took me there, the person said it was not available. Again, it's like, oh, they said it was not available because you're a black person. And this was like, now when we first got married, and I told him, I said, I don't know, maybe I don't blame them. Like, maybe what if they don't really understand the black people? What if they understand them the way I did when I first moved into Patterson? Like, what if they don't understand them? I also didn't understand them, and I was feeling like, now when I look about it, I'm thinking somebody listening to me right now must have thought I was ignorant. But I'm telling you, I was talking the truth. We had just come from Africa. We were black people. We had never seen the black that we saw here. Our culture was different. Our beliefs were different. Our behavior was almost different. We were the same, but yet so different. And we are still different that way, but I have friends who are like black friends. I have black friends, and I love them, and and I hear their grievances and all these things, and I know that it's almost like a challenge when I sit down with them, and they're like, Caroline, you don't understand. And I tell them, I said, you don't understand either where we come from and how we were colonized by the British. We were slaves, but we believed I was never going to live under the British rule. I was going to go work hard and be respectful. And they kind of saw, oh, these people are kind of the same like we are, and considering that slavery started in Africa anyway. So my friends always challenge me and say, Caroline, yeah, but here it's different because of A, B, C, and D. And the other day I told them, I said, listen, I think that you feel like you are in an abusive relationship, like you're abused by the white person, they are abusing you. I said, when you are in an abusive relationship, sometimes it's you who has to change. The abuser will not change. And again, I was saying, if this is how you're looking at yourselves, I said, the abuser will not change. But if you go out there and work so hard, and whether you're getting paid less than the white person, just go there and work so hard. Apply for every job out there. Let them deny you the job. Go around, walk around like you don't even know there's racism. Even if somebody is so outright where they're like, this person is not realizing I'm being racist, so I'm going to call them the N-word. Let them call you the N-word. It doesn't make you that. It was a word that was used in history. It doesn't make you that. Like just block them out. Just block them out and keep working so hard. And whatever they're doing, encourage like your boys to go out there and become police officers. After all, I just realized that to be a police officer, you just need a GED. And our kids can go to high school. I said, let our boys go out there and become police officers, and then arrest people the way you think they should be arrested. And again, I'm talking to my African American friends who are really great friends with me, and we laugh about it and we talk about this issue, and sometimes they get me, And I said, let's do this. Let's whisper to each other. You know what? All these black people, let's do all this. The way people wonder, oh my God, what happened to these people? It's like, wow, they're getting this job. They're becoming all these officers. They're becoming this. And I said, you'll see that maybe you might rise, And I know that people might think that, oh, I'm telling you, that's just how I see it, and that's just how I talk. You give somebody power by letting them know that whatever they are telling you, you're feeling it. And that's how I felt when I was in my previous relationship with my abusive husband. If I cried or if I said, oh, you're being abusive to me, it's almost like it was there. He knew that he was being abusive. But the one day I decided, and I prayed to God, I said, build a wall around me that no matter what he does to me, I don't hear it, and it doesn't affect me. And it happened. And he would look at me, he'd be like, how come you're not crying? How come you're not doing this? Because even though he abused me, I decided I'm not going to be the victim. I'm not even going to hear you. I am going to move so fast, so forward, so on. You're not even going to realize it. And after a while, it's almost like they started respecting me. They were like, wow, It's like no matter what I tell her, it doesn't affect her. Of course, I got divorced and, I moved on. But that's just my thing. And again, I'm so sorry for everybody who's been affected by racism in a bad way. And I believe I believe your story. Maybe I just don't get it because it hasn't happened to me like outright that way. And again, with my personality, I say that even if it happens, I am not owning it. I am not owning it. Even if somebody came straight out to me and called me the N word, I would say, I don't blame you. It's just your ignorance. That's what your forefathers used to call us. But listen, this is a new century. I can go to any school that I want. I can go to any college that I want. I can get a student loan as I want, and I can get any job as I want. If they want to pay me less, that's their own problem. Or I could become a businesswoman the way I am a businesswoman. I just refuse to own it. I just refuse to be known as a black woman who's looking for a job. I am an American looking for a job. And again, I really sympathize with everything that has been going on. That being said, I have always told my African American friends, and actually I belong to this organization that does every Friday they would have the current event, and most of them are predominantly white and there's a few black. I have told them, I said, listen, the way I think that you people can help the African Americans here is by making sure that their schools are funded, because I know that there's some schools in black neighborhoods that are not funded as well. Even though I know there are kids who do very well in Africa who don't even own a pencil or an eraser, and those are the kids that we go to Africa with my mission trip to help. They don't even own a pen, and yet they work so hard they become doctors. But again, all I am saying, fund the schools here, because America's system is a totally different system. I know kids in Africa, we can work with very little and still be successful. But kids here, I said, fund the black schools so that these kids have an equal opportunity. I then even told them, I said, you know what, maybe the African American community, and again, it's because I understand, maybe their grandfather was on welfare, and then the father was on welfare, and maybe their father was in jail, or they didn't have a father or something. So even applying for a student loan, if they were not very good students who would get grants to go to college, maybe they wouldn't be able to afford to get the loan, from or pay the loan because they don't have the money. I said, why can't you make college free for these black communities, or make it subsidized? And not just for the black communities. I know some really white kids who are hopeless. I know some white kids who are running the streets. I know some white kids who are selling drugs on the streets. But again, I'm just talking for the black people. And I said, and I always say in these current events, why don't you give them free college? Because maybe if they went to school and got educated and got a degree, then you would not be trying to stop them in the streets, because an idle mind is a devil's workshop. So maybe if these kids are not able to get into a college, maybe that's why they're running the streets and doing all these things and selling drugs and stuff like that, And I hope, and seriously, I always tell even my black friends, I said, you guys should be marching for that. You should be going on the streets, peacefully marching, to ask that your black schools be funded. You should be marching on the streets to be asking for free college education for our black kids, so that your black kids can go to college, so that you don't feel that you've been denied an opportunity. And I tell my friends, I said, you guys are so lucky that you were born in America. Because if my great-grandfathers had not been made slaves in my country, they would have been brought to the US, and I'd have been born here, and maybe I'll be feeling like I have the equal right. Or maybe my attitude will be different. Who knows? Those are the things that I fight for. And when I talk about that, the other day I saw 3 kids in Chicago who were murdered by drive-by shooting, drugged by drive-by shootings. We need the police in these areas. Those are the things that we black people should be marching for. That our innocent kids are being killed. I think there was a 4-year-old, a 6-year-old, an 11-year-old, and there's so many kids who have been killed by our own. We need to get these drugs off the streets. We need the police to come here and get these guys off the streets. Those are the things that black mothers and black fathers, we should be marching for, and saying, no, we need to get these drugs off the streets. Our innocent children are being killed when we're just driving them in our car and there's a drive-by shooting, or when they're having dinner in the house and somebody's shooting somebody from the outside. Those are the things that we should be marching for. And I know, again, it's like we are a whole total different spectrum. Yes, we are all black, but I'm just talking about from how I see it myself. In fact, when I was growing up in Kenya, I always wanted to be a lawyer, because I wanted to fight for injustice, and I wanted to fight for discrimination and things like that, because there's also discrimination in Kenya against tribe and tribe. I mean, we're all black, so we can't say that, oh, it's, white against black. There's a few white people, who own, like non-government organizations or stuff like that. In fact, when I was in Kenya, most of the organizations that I worked for were for the British people. I used to go there and apply for a job there. And I'm like, yes, I want to get a job there. And I get a job there, And but we need to get our kids into that frame of mind. Like today when I was walking with my son, I have a 16-year-old son, and we were walking our dog in the morning, and I said, Alex, like, so what do you feel about all this? He says, I really feel so bad because he says, I don't feel like that. I don't feel like I'm being discriminated against. I don't, he says, maybe it's there, but I just don't feel it. I said, listen, if you have never experienced it, don't feel it. I said, I never go out there. I told him now that he's driving on his own, I said, I never ever worry when you're out there that you're going to get killed or anything. I said, never have that fear. I'm not going to put that fear in you. I said, we have lived in this country for 25 years. We've been pulled over so many times. Your uncles, your brothers, everybody has been pulled over and nothing has ever happened to us. Never ever have that fear that the police is your enemy. In fact, look at them as somebody who's coming to save you. I know the need for a police officer. I've called them when I was in an abusive relationship. I've called them when my husband fell and broke his leg. I've called them when he was sick. And yes, I am a black woman. I've called them actually when I thought that I was having chest pains, And I told my son, I said, never ever identify yourself as a victim. Just go out there, Alex, and work so hard. Like, go and work. And he's really such an amazing student. I said, and always respect the law. I tell my kids, respect authority, respect the law. And that's how we were brought up when we were kids. Respect anybody who's older than you. Respect your teacher. Respect the bus driver who drives you. Respect anybody who's in authority, who's in a position there. Whether it's somebody at the supermarket, they're the cashier and you're buying, that's their job. Respect them. And I told him, just always respect authority and never grow up with any fear in you because you're equal like anybody else. I said, you can even become the president of the United States if you want. Never ever go there as a victim. And again, I am not saying that I don't understand what happens out there. I have told you I understand that. I think that people should be given, black kids should be given free education and their schools should be funded. But all I am saying is that from my past history, I have never felt discriminated against. And that doesn't mean that I don't stand for you people who are being discriminated. I can hear you. Maybe I might not really understand it because I'm a black person who's never experienced that kind of a thing. And I think 25 years is a long time to be in this country and never have experienced that racism. And again, maybe I'm just so blinded that I don't see it, but I don't want to see it. If I have never seen it, I don't want to see it. And I just hope that we can move to other things that we can discuss in this country than just the racism of black and white and Muslims and Indians and everything. Because I believe discrimination is everywhere. And do Black Lives Matter? Black Lives Matter. But I believe every life matters. I believe the life of my stepson matters. My stepdaughter matters. My kids' lives matter. And I know that they're black kids, but I never ever raise them to go like, oh, because you're black, people are going to discriminate against you. Because you're black, you're not going to get these opportunities. I always tell them, go to school, work very hard, work even extra harder. Like, seriously, go there and make a life out of yourself and go there into the world and conquer the world. And even if anybody tried to, even if they were so outright, like I said, to call you the N-word, don't hear it. Do not ever take that label. Go out there and make a life out of yourself. I really do sympathize for everybody who's going there, who's experiencing this kind of racism, but seriously, let us train our children to go out there and become even police officers. At least high school is free. Our kids can go and get a GED and go there and become police officers. Let us enroll them even into things like home health aid. I'm a home health aid. How many Black African Americans have I seen as home health aides? Those are jobs that anybody can easily get. And I know that the world is unfair, and I know that there was slavery, and I know that it is so, but in fact, I don't even like reading those books about slavery, because when I read those books, I'm like, oh my God, I can't even breathe. I'm like, I don't even want to listen. I don't even want to read about it. But I'm not telling you to overlook it. I am not telling you that it didn't happen. It happened, and it even happened to us in Africa. All I can tell you is like, please wake up tomorrow and decide, you know what? I'm going to show these white people what we're made of. We're going to go work so hard. We're going to apply for those jobs that they tell us that we can't get. We're going to apply for these student loans, whether I am going to end up not being able to afford it later, whether I'm going to look for a job or start a business or start a skill or start. I mean, we have like artists, like there are rappers that are black that I see getting so many audiences like who are white, like, you know, start a skill, start doing hair, like, so you don't have to apply for a job. At least as black people, we're so skilled in doing like hair and things like that. Start dressmaking, you know, start making masks, start like look for another skill. And seriously, don't listen. If you're a white black person who really feels discriminated against, then all I can tell you is like, don't listen. Let the voice of your enemy be like silence to your ears. Like really block them out, because they're not coming into your house and telling you you cannot eat, because they're not stopping you from going to the mall when you want to go to the mall, because now we can still sit in front of the bus, because we're going into restaurants and we're able to eat, because you can go and buy whatever car that you want. Like seriously, do not give them that power. Do not give them that power, because that's how I think that I have survived, because I never gave it that power. America is a land of opportunities, and we people from Africa have always looked at it like that. We have never, if we ever thought that there was discrimination against the black people, we wouldn't come here. We come here because we believe there's equal opportunities for everybody. And when you see a black person saying there's no discrimination, please don't start hating on us and telling us like we're acting all white. Find out and say, you know what? I want to think the way that person thinks. Let me go talk to them to find out why they think against that, because sometimes we are our own worst enemy. And I have seen that in America. I have seen black people try to run for president, and I've seen even their own people tearing them down and telling them, oh, you know, they're kissing ass, or they're doing something like that. I have seen great black young people coming out and talking about never probably having experienced racism, and they're African Americans. They're not even like African like me, who are, you can say, maybe I'm just excited that I'm in America and it's a land of opportunities for me. I have seen them saying such nice things, and instead of you supporting them or finding out, I want us to have that mindset like that person. I have seen the posts and you guys tearing them down and calling them white trash, and they're brainwashed. Find out what is it about them. They're African Americans like you. They were born here. Find out what is the secret. Maybe they know the magic potion that you need to take to feel right. And maybe, again, they just could be in a situation where they're not discriminated against, or maybe they were blessed, or maybe whatever. But let's not tear our own down, because your enemy is looking at you, tearing your own people down and going like, look at these people, look at these people, you know. Let us try to uplift our own. And even if our own doesn't think the way we think, that doesn't mean that they're bad. By me saying that I've never been discriminated against, and by me saying that I don't fear the police, by me saying that I have white friends, and I can live in any neighborhood that I want, and if somebody refuses to rent me a house, it's their loss or no loss at all. It doesn't mean that I'm downplaying what you as a black person here is saying. It doesn't mean that. I am just saying I have never experienced it, so I cannot own it. I am just saying that I refuse to own it. So I really hope that my video has inspired you. And please, I beg you, do not try to tear us down just because we are your color and we are saying that there's no discrimination. If you have felt